Hey guys, what's going on? Paul here. Welcome back to another Cardano video. So today I got to sit down with Nico from Milkomeda, who are building a layer 2 solution on top of Cardano. This is going to bring lots of new opportunities into the ecosystem. So in the interview, we go through lots of different things, starting out with the tech, actually starting out with DCspark, which Nico is a part of, and where that all came from, the contributions they bring to the Cardano ecosystem, getting into some of the tech then as well around how this all works, then talking more about Milkomeda, the types of dApps we're going to see, how you will be able to bring your ADA across from Cardano into Milkomeda, the bridges that are going to be there. All of the fees on Milkomeda are going to be in ADA as well. So we talk about a lot of different things. So there will be timestamps down below for anyone who wants to jump to certain sections. People who are interested in the tech, you can go there. If you want to jump straight to hearing about the types of dApps and everything like that, then you can check out the timestamps below. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new. Leave a comment below to let me know questions we've missed. I will be creating tutorials around this before and after it goes live to show people how to use it and take advantage of some of the dApps and features they're going to have. So let's jump into it.
Hi, Paul. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, great to have you. Look, let's go into it. For people who haven't seen, people who are around Cardano now a while will probably have seen yourself, DCspark, Sebastian, and a lot of what you do. But can you give an introduction to yourself and I suppose DCspark as well?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Nico. I'm the CEO of DCspark. Previously, I was the CTO of Emurgo, and also even for like a little over a year, I was one of the board members of the Cardano Foundation. So I've been like involved with the Cardano ecosystem for like over 3 years. Also, as you may know, my two co-founders are Sebastian Guillemot, and also Rob Konaki, which were my co-workers in Emurgo. Seba was the VP of engineering, and Rob was the head of research. So they also like very involved with the ecosystem. So while we were in Emurgo, part of like the vision was more about like maybe a little bit more of like enterprise, which is what Emurgo has been like pointing to. But me, Seba, and Rob, we are more of like products and things that are like more related to users. So that's called B2C rather than B2B. And that's why we were thinking like, wouldn't it be cool that we just can create and code anything that we want and not worry so much about like companies and stuff like that, and just create things that are valuable for the ecosystem, maybe try to get some grants and build something cool. And that's how we decided to leave Emurgo and create DCspark.
Nice. Yeah, DCspark it's probably contributed a lot more to the Cardano ecosystem than lots of people know, with some of the frameworks and different things that you've developed in the background. So do you want to give an overview kind of DCspark, what kind of things you have done? You've went through Catalyst funding a few times as well, and some of the products that you've actually developed out there. And then we'll get into Milkomeda then.
Sounds good. So, for example, one of the major libraries that are used in the Cardano ecosystem, and actually is like the most widely used, everyone uses it, and actually like the integration with Coinbase, this exchange in the US, it's also using this library that's called Cardano Serialization Library. This library was created by Seba while he was in Emurgo, and through DCspark, we have continued being updating this library, which is critical for everything that's related to like dApps and smart contracts. This is like the most widely used library in Cardano, and it's not created by IOHK. It's actually like was created by Seba and currently is still maintained by us in DCspark. Emurgo also is like contributing to it, but Seba is like the main guy actually. And other thing that we have created is, for example, Fracada. So actually Fracada was like the first open source smart contract for Plutus that was like out there. And this helped a lot with the ecosystem because a lot of other projects were like looking at how do you like code like a production ready Plutus dApp, like how do you organize the different things, how the code looks like. So this was also one of like a big contribution from us, and again it was like the first open source Plutus dApp out there. I wish for this one, we didn't receive any grants or anything. So it was a little bit sad because we were saying like, oh, it would be great that people can actually deploy this. We would love if the Cardano Foundation or someone else that has funding could like help us with like an audit, because we already did all this development for free. We didn't hear anything back, so that was quite sad. But luckily we have Catalyst, and the people spoke, and we got some funding for Fracada. So we are going to update Fracada with like newer stuff. Fracada, basically what it does is when you have an NFT, you can fractionalize it. And now, like with the update, you're going to be able to have like a group of NFTs or a group of tokens and like a bundle, and you're going to be able to fractionalize that. So that's pretty cool, because you can even create like an ETF, which is like this financial term. Obviously, you will have to take in account regulations and other things, but the technology is going to be there. Also, there's going to be like an upgradability protocol, which is like super cool, and this could be used by other dApps. So thank you to everyone that voted for us in Catalyst, and I think Fracada is going to be like a critical, very important critical piece for Cardano. Also, right now in DCspark, we are working with the team in Aura for everything that's like dApps and stuff like that, or even like blockchain explorers, wallet. There is also this thing called Cardano DBC that everyone uses, which is basically a database that contains all the information from Cardano. Because when you are developing a product, you need to read the information from somewhere. The Cardano node doesn't give you that information in a helpful way, but it gives you the information, so then you need to convert it. And this database is not great for work. And actually, sometimes we read in Twitter or in Discord or in some other social media, Joro is working slow, or some other wallets are working slow. And it's mostly because Cardano DBC is like slow. So we have been working with the Aura team, and this is going to be another like key critical infrastructure piece for the space. We also have been working in some other stuff, but I think maybe these are like the main ones. Actually, there's like two more that I could mention. So there is one that how the Cardano protocol works is that it's a proof of stake called Ouroboros. Right now, Ouroboros Pro is the one implemented. And it's common to have a small fork. So nothing to scare. It's part of the protocol. It handles pretty well. But sometimes, if, for example, if you're an exchange or if you're a person that's receiving ADA or tokens, the first confirmation is not enough for you to be like, oh, sure, I just received 100 ADA. There you go, this like computer or whatever. So usually you need to wait some time. And what we created, and we are open sourcing in DCspark, is that we are going to be able to follow all the different forks that are in the chain. So for example, if you send a transaction and it's in all the different forks that are going on in Cardano, we can lower down the amount of confirmation required to be able to like be sure that this is not going to roll back, which is like the term that's used when maybe the other fork doesn't have your transaction and you're not going to be able to have those funds. So this is like pretty important, especially for payments or for like having entire apps that work faster. So this is also
so you get
like
faster finality then in that way as well.
Exactly.
Okay. Great.
So this is also like pretty important for the ecosystem. And also Seva is part of the CIP group. The CIP is the Cardano Improvement Proposal group. So we have been working like to try to improve like organization standard, because right now, for example, we have multiple wallets. We have Yoroi, Nami, CC Vault, Flint, and Flint is coming from DCspark. And we need a way that adapt. If you're a developer building an app, you're going to be like, oh, do I need to do 4 different integrations for all the different wallets, or maybe even more? So that's why CIPs are really important, because it's like basically a standard that everyone needs to follow. So like developers only need to do one implementation and it's going to work for everything. So it's good for the developers, and also it's good for users, because also they can use like different wallets and that fit their need. So also we put together a web page that's going to facilitate this work for developers and also for wallets, where you're going to be able to see like all the different like functions and like all the different protocols that which wallet use them and try to guide so we can have like a more of like ecosystem coordination in terms of wallet, which is going to help a lot with dApps.
Yeah,
and maybe
sorry.
Go ahead.
No, yeah, I suppose as we get into more and more dApps being out there now with wallets integrating with them, those types of standards really are needed. So it's easier for all different sites. They can integrate the different wallets very easily.
Yeah, exactly, because we have multiple people doing work, and that's great. We want that. We want to be a decentralized ecosystem, but then also needs to be a way to like coordinate efforts. So we are not creating like things in a different way.
Yeah, it creates a better user experience, which at the end of the day is what brings more people in as well. So the big one that you guys have coming out fairly soon is Milkomeda. So what is Milkomeda, or where does it fit into all of this?
Yeah, so Milkomeda is this protocol that gives EVM capabilities for non-EVM blockchains using Rollups. So it's like pretty cool because right now, I'm going to split this answer in two parts. So the first one is that Milkomeda is a layer 2 solution, although for Cardano, first, we're going to be implementing as a sidechain. What is a sidechain? So basically, it's a chain that's interconnected with the main chain. And Milkomeda has like a very, very high throughput. So probably it's going to be like in the thousands of transactions per second. There's like an asterisk here because it's going to depend on like the type of things that you're doing, because at the end, transactions are like not a good term, because at the end, what is important is like how much computation, how much space uses in the transaction. So if one type of transaction could be like bigger than other ones, and you cannot count them the same. So usually like TPS is not like a good approximation, but I wanted to give like a sort of like an idea. So Milkomeda is launching as a sidechain for Cardano. So we are going to be helping with scalability because, as I mentioned, we have a high throughput, but also with everything that's related to Ethereum, virtual machine, and Solidity. So everything that works in Ethereum is going to be working in the Cardano ecosystem now, which is like huge because dApps that are part of the Ethereum ecosystem, or maybe even other ecosystem like Binance Smart Chain, or for example, Avalanche, Aurora, Moonbeam, and so many others, they're going to be able to pour in Cardano with like quite easily, like almost like a one-click deployment. There's like a small changes in parameters, but it's like pretty fast. So that's going to be like pretty cool. And this is what Milkomeda does. But the other part that I wanted to touch is that right now, maybe there is a misconception that layer ones can scale infinitely. And that's not the case. And a lot of different ecosystems, like for example, Ethereum, have realized this. So there is like a constraint, because if you want to scale your base chain longer than you have right now, eventually you're going to have to do trade-off, and that trade-off is going to go with being more centralized. So sometimes you can be looking at other projects that have a layer one, and why they can do so many transactions is because they're like way more centralized. And they're going to have the problems that eventually they're not going to have enough transactions. And what they're going to do, they're going to have to think, do we get more centralized, or we start thinking about these things that are called layer 2 solutions. So basically layer 2 solutions are solutions that are built on top of the main chain. So the main chain is used like as a source of truth. And the layer 2 like rely on the security properties of this, but sort of like multiply. And one of the cases, for example, there is Hydra, which is a layer 2 that uses payment channels, which is like similar to, in some ways, to a Lightning network. So it's like pretty cool because you can have, you can create like, for saying something like groups of people, and then they can start like sending transactions in a secure manner offline. So they're like extremely fast, costless, because you're not going to the blockchain, and it has all the security properties. And for example, if you want to pay for something in Starbucks, maybe once Hydra is out, and if you have like some stable coins in Cardano, you're going to be able to pay like less than a second. It's going to be like in the milliseconds, and that's going to be amazing. But for example, Hydra doesn't work well with the smart contract because, as I mentioned, you need to have a fixed set number of participants. So let's say, oh, let's implement a DEX on Hydra. And we have like 10 people, and we create a channel, and we are I changed the token. So we're like so happy. And then someone else come, guys, can I join? And we are like, sure. Oh, how do we do that? We need to like go back to the Cardano main chain layer 1 and create another group now with 11 people. And that's why it's inconvenient for a smart contract. And that's why there is other solution. For example, one that I'm super passionate about, that's called Rollups. And there's like 2 different types of Rollups so far. One that's called optimistic Rollups that we have been hearing a lot. And another one that's called zkRollups, which basically they're using zero knowledge proof technology, which is like mathematics to create validity proof. So they're also able to compete some things. And then they just need to send a proof to the chain and they hold a state, which is like the one that's called like second layer. And this is able to like multiply the amount of transactions that are happening. And I really think that this one, the later one called zkRollups, is going to be like in the entire crypto ecosystem is going to be like the way to scale up because they're like very friendly towards like the speed of transaction, but also with smart contracts and dApps.
Yeah, hearing a lot more about rollups in the last while as well. It's something I've looked a bit into. It's something I definitely need to look more into. I seen there was some update today as well. Actually, you shared it out as well on Twitter.
Yeah, so there's like multiple companies working in zkRollups. For example, we have Starkware. They are using Starks, which is a specific set of like zero knowledge proof technology. They're also creating validity proof. There is this other team that's called zkSync, which is using one that's called Snarks to create validity proof. And I would say that probably these 2 are like the main ones in the Ethereum ecosystem. They are like pretty cool. I really like what they're doing. There's other ones, for example, Near that was bought recently by Polygon for a few $100 million. And also, I think there's Nightfall or something like that. And there is also Aztec. Aztec is not so much focusing scalability, but it's more focusing privacy because like you can pick what problems do you have, but it has like different ramification trade-off. So, but generally, like the 2 main protocols that everyone is looking for scalability in Ethereum is zkSync and Starkware, which is this other one. And I'm super excited. And actually, this is one of like the main value proposition of Milkomeda, that we can act as a second layer on top of like different blockchains, for example, in Cardano. So we bring the EVM. So when someone like them is working in zkRollups technology, they need to verify the zero knowledge proof and all the work that they did. And it's a lot of work that's really complicated. They have smart contracts that are in Solidity for checking like the specific like cryptography they're using. And then they also need to use later on another contract to update the state, only if the proof is valid. So all of this is a lot of work, and to implement it to different blockchains, it will take a lot of time. So that's one of like the benefits that they could get by using Milkomeda, that they could deploy the technology like in a day in other chains, and everything will work out of the box using like having like the same security properties of the underlying chain.
Yeah. So just on that, so say you have your layer 2, so a lot of the transactions happen, so the dApps run on the layer 2. But how does that come back up to, in Cardano, you said it's a side chain, so all of that is then verified back to the Cardano blockchain then, is it? Or what way, on a high level, where does that come into it? Does it happen is it a set amount of time when it gets verified back to the main chain, or where does that come in?
Yeah, so there's like different technologies for us. Right now, Cardano is like, there's a smart contract, so it opened a ton of possibilities. That was like pretty cool to see like last September, if I remember correctly. And right now, like IHK is mostly focused in scalability. And the next hard fork, I think, is like mid this year. So we're going to finally have like more throughput, but we wanted to implement a layer 2, and right now Cardano is not quite ready for like rollups because scalability is not quite there, and rollups work like as a multiplier, and it's not like, oh, rollups gives you this amount of transactions per second, but rather it's like it multiplies the base. And also there is like some specific things that are like super friendly towards rollup, and we're going to be doing like research on what is the best way to implement rollups in Cardano. So that's like the medium to long-term plan, that we are going to move Milkomeda from being a sidechain to be a rollup in Cardano. So that's going to be quite cool. So the first implementation of Milkomeda, like B1, is a sidechain, which is like another network that's using a protocol that's called IBFT, Istanbul Byzantine Fault Tolerant Protocol, the version 2. And this is like used by a full node called Hyperlayer Besu, which is like from consensus. It's quite good. And it has like equivalence with everything that happens in Ethereum in terms of like smart contracts. So it's like literally being able to run Ethereum, but with another protocol that's like very fast, because if we will be running Ethereum per se, we will be running proof of work, and we don't want that, because why are we going to be running proof of work? So in the first release of Milkomeda is going to be not so decentralized. There's going to be a set of like around like 5 to 6 validators, but every month the plan is to be adding more validators to get up to 32. And then the idea is that by that time we are like already pretty close to move everything that's going on to our rollup. So this is like similar to what happened with Cardano. When Cardano released in September 2017, it was centralized. It was Byron, and actually there were like only 3 entities running Cardano. That was Emurgo, Cardano Foundation, and IHK. So even for us, the way that we're going to start is going to be like more decentralized how we start in Cardano, and we're going to move towards like actually moving to a second layer on top of Cardano. And this is usually what happens with all the projects, that you start in one way, but you need to have a clear vision of how to improve. And as you guys have seen in DCspark, we move quite fast. So I have no questions that we want to get there like fairly fast.
Yeah, I suppose when something's new as well, you want to make sure that everything's working properly and roll it out incrementally. Like you say with Cardano, they done it as well, where there was the main entities were creating most of the blocks, and then we had every epoch where it used to go down, and they used to get more and more decentralized in terms of block creation. And then they also have the number of stake pools has really exploded over the last year on top of Cardano as well. But I suppose that actually comes back to why a layer 1 can't just keep scaling out, because when it starts to scale out, obviously the infrastructure you need to run nodes within a network like that, the blockchain just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So there's always trade-offs. You can't be as decentralized when you have that much throughput. So that's where layer 2s can come in and help out with that as well.
Yeah, exactly. And also, it's not so one part like you mentioned is about the type of computers that you have, but also, for example, if you have 100 nodes in Australia, 100 nodes in Europe, 100 in the US, and everything spread, you need to send information through the internet to all those computers to be in sync. So if you're scaling up, it means that you're sending way more information, and eventually you cannot be sending like, I don't know, 1 gigabyte of information to like 5,000 nodes across all the world. Like,
yeah,
lots of physics
it just
don't allow
doesn't
you
work.
to do.
Yeah. Even within Cardano now, we're looking at block propagation. They're trying to bring in pipelining and stuff like that. But again, it can only go so far when you have so many in the network.
Yeah, exactly. So then you are going to hit like the limits, and then it's going to be like, I don't know, small improvements, but you don't have to have a 10x improvement, because if you are like the best that you can do with the current technologies, you're going to be there, and then you're going to be thinking like, oh, the virtual machine that we have is efficient, because what do this mean? That there are different virtual machines in different ecosystems. So for example, in Solana, there is one in Rust. In Ethereum, we have the EVM. In Cardano, we have Plutus. So then you start thinking like, oh, how much space do a normal transaction require? For example, if I want to do a token swap, how much space do these require to put in the transaction? Because at the end, you think of space, because at the end, the blocks in the blockchain are like basically space used by the transaction. So if the virtual machines are not very optimized, their space are going to be bigger. So even if you have like the same consensus protocol, maybe you're going to see different results in terms of speed, because maybe the virtual machine is like not so efficient. So maybe that's going to be like the second step, to start like improving the virtual machine to make it like very light. But then you still are going to hit like a ceiling, and then you're going to have to start thinking about layer 2 solutions.
Yeah. So I suppose what's actually going to be on Milkomeda? What type of dApps are we going to see? I've seen you've announced a few over the last few days, and seems to be new ones coming out nearly every day at the minute. Do you want to talk about any of the different types or any of them individually?
Yeah, so basically, in Milkomeda, we're trying to move fast, and but we need to move smart. What does this mean? So that we have all of like what is called DeFi, decentralized finance, and you have like a specific type of dApps that are required by other dApps, because something that's really cool in DeFi is that you can have composability, but also sometimes like tricky, because if you're going to be using another project, you want the other project to be secure. So also that's something that we have been caring a lot, and everyone that contacts us, we like highly, highly recommend that. Is very, very important that they have like security audit. If they can have two, even better. And so basically what we are focusing first is in critical infrastructure. Maybe you guys have heard, we integrated with Nomad, which is like an amazing bridge from the EVM ecosystem. And so that's going to allow to bring assets from the Cosmos ecosystem, what Emos comes, from the Polkadot ecosystem through Moonbeam, and from the Ethereum ecosystem through Nomad to the Milkomeda ecosystem. And the plans are that also in one collaboration that we are going to be announcing more details soon, we are going to be able to move those assets back to Cardano as well. So Milkomeda not only could help to build stuff in Milkomeda itself, but also could help to bring liquidity to Cardano from other tokens. When you go to the different dexes, you are limited by only like the assets that exist in Cardano. But for example, there is no stablecoin. So we are going to be able to also bring that liquidity to Cardano. But for Milkomeda, that's important because we are going to be able to do that through Nomad. So the second one, also we are bringing dexes, because we are going to have all these like assets that could like pass through Milkomeda. So Milkomeda could be like a little bit like the main road for for interoperability of Cardano, which is quite amazing. So Cardano right now is like its own island, and there is nothing to get to connect. But through Milkomeda, we are going to have a connection with different ecosystems. So that's like very, very cool. And also we're going to be able to bring assets from Cardano to Milkomeda, or even if you want to move those assets to Ethereum or other network, you're going to be able to do that through Milkomeda. So it's like an adapter, and also it could work as a bridge. But we're going to be, there's like some projects that are deploying indexes. We have Milky Swap, which is pretty cool, Ocam, Blue Chip, and today also Muesli Swap announced that they're going to be releasing an AMM in Milkomeda, and that's going to complement what the order book that they have in Cardano mainnet. So that's pretty cool. But then what is next? So next we're going to be bringing oracles, and we already have like two potential partners that are like really good. They're going to be launching oracles in Milkomeda, and that's going to open for more possibilities. For example, we're going to be able to have like stable coins that are algorithmic, because we're going to have stable coins like USDC, USDT, USD, but now we're going to be able to have our own that are going to be like, maybe there's going to be a version similar to DAI where you can collateralize ADA to create a stable coin, which is like pretty cool.
Nice.
And that's going to open up like new DeFi things. And also we are going to have lending and borrowing in Milkomeda, which is also really cool. But for that, you also need oracles as well. So those are like the very, very close, like near step, although there's going to be like some other things that are going to be launching in Milkomeda as well.
Nice. Yeah, the lending, borrowing, all DeFi markets, money markets there, stuff like that is something I'm really looking forward to seeing, because I don't know if we mentioned already, but you'll be able to bring across some of your ADA onto Milkomeda and then use it there for any of the dApps that are there, the DEXs, money markets. Actually, you mentioned Nomad as well. I watched your call with Nomad and I thought that was very good. I'll put a link to that down below for anyone who wants to look into how the bridge actually works. And you talked a bit about the security, which was important for me. You mentioned as well about audits for the projects launching. So Milkomeda will be open to any project to launch, won't it? Or are you vetting the projects?
Milkomeda is a decentralized project, so we are not even running the nodes from Milkomeda. So we cannot stop projects for like using Milkomeda as like an open protocol, and that's how it's supposed to be like layer 2. If we're going to be talking about someone, we're going to try to be as helpful as we can, because But basically that means like, please care about security, do security audits with well-known firms. But Milkomeda is like an open ecosystem the same way that Cardano is an open ecosystem. If someone wants to like, I don't know, deploy anything, they can, and you cannot go to Charles. Stop that from happening.
Yeah.
You can done. So the same way in Milkomeda.
Yeah, if you had that power, then it's not a good solution. That's where I was going, just on the security, just to put it out there to people to always do your research on any of the projects you're getting involved in, any of them you're trusting your ADA or whatever other assets it is. Make sure the project has done their audits, do a bit of research on them, and don't assume because they launch on Cardano or they launch on Milkomeda or something that you trust that the actual project launching will be trustworthy as well. So it's always good to take that extra step just to be safe. So you mentioned...
Exactly. And even I agree 100% with you. And even if you're going to see a project, don't put money like crazy on it, or like maybe try with like just a little bit, like 1 ADA or 2 ADA and see how it feels. But always do your own research, and please don't jump into anything, even if it looks like very promising. Always like do some research and try with like just a little bit to see how it works and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned about assets as well. So currently we don't have things like USDC or that on Cardano. Will there be options so you can bridge them from Ethereum into Milkomeda? Can they be bridged then into Cardano, or is that another step?
That's another step, and that's why I was mentioning that we are going to be announcing more details next week.
Okay, good. I like that. Yeah, it's definitely something, especially we will get some when we get, like we have Liquid and we have Ardana and different projects out there, Meld as well, building money markets, and they will have different stable coins there, but it will be good to have lots of options in that. So on the assets then that can be moved from Cardano into Milkomeda, is that a set list, or is that, again, it's just open that you can bridge any of the native assets over?
So you cannot bridge any assets. So there's going to be a governance system that we are working on. And so how Milkomeda works is that you have a set of validators that I was mentioning. And eventually we're going to get to 32. So they need to vote. And if at least 2/3 of the current amount of validators accept a new token, that's going to be allowed by the network. But they need to accept the tokens or like what you want to transact. So it's not centralized, but also it's not completely free because it needs to be accepted by the people running the network. And I feel like a good thing, because maybe some people could be like trying to trick others, and maybe they're going to add like a fake token transacting with a real token. So you're going to be like moving to a fake token. That cannot happen right now because the validators are going to be like betting, and there's going to be a governance process for all of this. But also you mentioned about like Liquid, Mel, and some other money makers. It's difficult to do money maker if you don't have a stable coin. So they're going to, although they're going to be launching in Cardano, most likely they're still going to be using Milkomeda without deploying to Milkomeda, which is pretty cool because Milkomeda is going to be like the one bringing USDC, USDT. So you can think of Milkomeda, that's going to be the actual ERC20 converter. Because right now the ERC20 converter only works with AGI, as far as I know, and it cannot be extended to other tokens. So actually, Milkomeda is going to feel like the gap of what everyone was expecting from the ERC20 converter.
Yeah, so it opens up a lot of different possibilities within the Cardano ecosystem, as well as being a layer 2. It's what it can actually push into the Cardano ecosystem as well. When can we expect to see this all going live, or even parts of it going live?
It should be going live fairly soon. So we are like Netflix in the sense that the entire platform is ready to go. But what happens if Netflix launches without any TV shows and any movies? You're like, what the heck? How is this helpful? So
that's a good analogy.
We are waiting for... Yeah, so we are waiting for our partners to like finalize the integration, but Milkomeda is like already working for like mainnet. And so it's working exclusively for partners right now that are launching. And then it's going to open up for users. So we will see, but I think like we are like very, very close.
Great. Once I see it going live, I can put up some tutorials here anyway on how to take it across from Cardano into Milkomeda, and have a play around with some of the dApps, just so people have an idea of how to do it before they try and jump in themselves. So long-term vision, actually, I'm not sure if we touched on it much, but it's not just Cardano you're going to be building for this. You're going to be building this out to other ecosystems as well, which to me, I think is great because interoperability really is the future. We're talking about bridges here and what you can bring from one ecosystem to the other. So the long-term vision for Milkomeda, what is it, or where are we going?
Yeah, so the long-term vision of Milkomeda is being like a second layer adapter that's going to be allowed for developers that created technology focused in Ethereum to be deployed in other ecosystems like Cardano, Algorand, Solana, and Terra, and maybe could be another one. But basically, we are this adapter that allows to like bring technologies from one ecosystem to another one, which is pretty cool because, for example, zkRollups is like very complex and it will take years for being developed in other ecosystems. So with us, they could be border like in weeks.
Okay, nice. And will there be the option then for protocols to run part of it on Cardano mainnet layer 1 and then part on Milkomeda as well? I suppose that comes down to the UI that helps people port across, or that's
yeah, that's open, but the problem right now is like it's going to depend on the speed of like the first layer. So if the first layer is taking like multiple hours to run something and the other one is taking seconds, the user experience is not going to be great at all. So until like the first layers like scales to be faster enough and match what the speed of Milkomeda, I think we're not going to be pushing that much for that. But when that happens, you are going to be able to have this hybrid approach where part of the protocol maybe it could be Milkomeda and another one in the main chain, and it's going to work like pretty good. But right now, we are not pushing for this because like
we're not there just yet.
Yeah.
So anything else you want to put out there before we wrap this up, or anything I've missed? Or
no, I just wanted to give a shout out to Flint, which is like our wallet for Cardano. There's like really good wallets in Cardano, like 60 Volt, but we created Flint because Flint is this wallet that not only works like very good in Cardano, but also it's like it's focusing on interoperability. So it's going to work with Milkomeda, with everything that's related to EVM technologies and even other chains. So I think it's like the first wallet out there that's like MetaMask that focusing on interoperability, and we did like pretty good product decisions to focus on that. So if you haven't tried, give it a try, and it's going to make your life so much easier and simple to be able to use Cardano and Milkomeda at the same time.
Nice. Yeah, I must actually put a video out about Flint, kind of a tutorial on how to use it as well. But one final question, when this launches, will people use MetaMask or Flint, or what will be the wallet that they use to interact with it?
Yeah, so hopefully we get integration with the 60 Volt and NAMI as well. So you want to be able to move ADA to Milkomeda, but once you're in Milkomeda, you need to use MetaMask and you need to set up MetaMask to use Milkomeda. We have put documentation right now in milkomeda.com. So if you go there, you're going to be able to see how to set up like the MetaMask wallet, and and it's going to be as easy as that. And then when you want to move assets back from Milkomeda to Cardano, there's going to be a web page that's a bridge, and you're going to be able to connect MetaMask, select which tokens you want to move to Cardano, and if those tokens are in the allow list, which we discussed previously, you're going to be able to switch back to Cardano. So for example, a use case, maybe you could move some ADA from Cardano to Milkomeda, and you're going to get Milk ADA, and maybe you use one of the DEXs. You buy some tokens, you wait some time, maybe the token went up, you sold the token for ADA, and now you have Milk ADA in Milkomeda. You can use the bridge to move your Milk ADA back to Cardano with your profits. So it's like a simple process. So it's like a bridge, like maybe you're moving from Manhattan to Brooklyn to do something, and maybe you made some money in Brooklyn, and then you can move back to Manhattan to spend the money.
Yeah, I'll make this my final one then. It just came up when you were talking there. When people bridge across, what happens to, if I bridge across 100 ADA onto Milkomeda, then where does that 100 ADA sit? Is it locked in a smart contract, or what happens? I don't want to get the real ADA token?
Yeah. So Milkomeda doesn't create any ADA from thin air. all the ADA you see in Milkomeda is ADA that was breached from Milkomeda. And when you breach ADA from to Milkomeda, is sitting in a multi-sig script, which is like held by the same amount of validators that are running Milkomeda network. And to be able to move assets from this multi-sig, you at least require 2/3 of the network to approve this. Okay. So it's like very secure because you need to have over like 1/3 of the validators like being dishonest. And also we are implementing stake slashing. So if someone bad behavior, they're going to feel it.
Okay, great. Yeah, so thanks very much for your time. I really appreciate it. Hopefully people have got some value out of this. Questions we didn't cover, leave them down below. I will create some tutorials around this. Maybe at some stage later on when things are launched, you can come back on for another talk, Nico. You'll be very welcome anytime.
Thank you, Will. Take care.
All right, thanks guys. I will talk to you soon.